Elias Reed's heart raced as his shuttle approached the mysterious ship adrift at the edge of the Voryak Nebula. The silence of space was palpable, broken only by the soft hum of his vessel's engines and the occasional crackle of static on the comms. "Control, do you see this?" Elias transmitted back to his team orbiting a nearby planet. His colleague, Jonas, responded with a mix of awe and caution. "We see it, Elias. No signs of life detected, but be careful. We don't know why that ship is abandoned." Elias docked smoothly with the alien vessel, his pulse quickening. The airlock door hissed open, revealing the shadowy interior. He stepped inside, his boots echoing on the metallic floor. "Lights," he commanded, and strips of illumination flickered to life, casting long shadows down the empty corridor. "Jonas, I'm in. Going to start the sweep. Keep an eye on my signal." "Copy that. I'm here if you need anything." Elias progressed through the labyrinthine ship, his handheld scanner sweeping back and forth. The ship was surprisingly intact, filled with artifacts and technology markedly different from anything he'd seen. As he turned a corner, he entered what appeared to be a command center. That's when he saw her, a figure, suspended in a stasis pod at the center of the room. He approached slowly, inspecting the pod's alien markings. Suddenly, the figure stirred. Elias stepped back as the pod began to depressurize with a hiss. Within moments, the glass slid away, and a tall, slender figure with iridescent skin stepped out. She looked around, her bright eyes settling on Elias. "Hello," Elias started, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm Elias Reed, human explorer. I mean you no harm." The alien watched him, her expression unreadable. Then, in a clear, melodic voice, she spoke. "I am Anara of Valoria. Where am I?" "In space, aboard your ship." "It was adrift, and I came to investigate," Elias explained. He kept his distance, giving her space. Anara looked around, her movements graceful and cautious. "My ship is not where it should be. This is troubling. Can you remember what happened?" Elias asked, his voice soft. She paused, a frown crossing her face. "No. My last memory is of the council, then darkness." Elias offered a sympathetic nod. "You're safe now. I can help you figure this out if you want." Anara considered his offer, her gaze piercing. Finally, she nodded. "I would appreciate that, Elias Reed." Elias smiled, relieved. "Let's start by checking your ship's logs. Maybe they can tell us something about how you ended up here." Together, they navigated through the complex interfaces of the alien technology, slowly piecing together fragments of data. As they worked side by side, an unexpected camaraderie began to form. Elias was impressed by Anara's quick grasp of her ship's damaged systems and her calm demeanor. "Looks like we have a lot in common, despite coming from different stars," Elias remarked, as they uncovered more clues. Anara looked at him, a ghost of a smile appearing on her lips. "Perhaps the stars are not so different after all, Elias." Their investigation deepened, setting the stage for an alliance built on mutual curiosity and an emerging trust, unaware of the challenges that lay ahead. Chapter 2: Communication Bridges. Back on his own ship, Elias set up a makeshift communication station with devices from both their worlds, aiming to bridge the language gap further. He had patched into the alien ship's database, pulling out linguistic files. Anara watched, fascinated by the blend of technology. "Here," Elias said, handing her a small device. "This should translate my language into yours and vice versa. Let's give it a try." Anara took the device, examining it with an expert eye before clipping it to her attire. She spoke, and after a brief moment, the device emitted, "Is this suitable for communication?" Elias laughed, relieved. "Perfect. It works. Now, tell me more about Valoria and your people." As Anara described her world, a planet of vast oceans and floating cities, Jonas chimed in from the comms. "That sounds incredible, Anara. It's like nothing we have on Earth." Elias glanced towards the communication panel where Jonas's voice originated. "Jonas, why don't you come aboard? It's better if we're all here for this." "Be there in 10, Jonas replied. While they waited for Jonas, Elias showed Anara a holographic map of the galaxy they had compiled. "This is where we think your ship drifted from." He pointed to a cluster of stars on the edge of the known map. Anara leaned over the display, her finger tracing the light paths. "It's a long way from home," she murmured, her voice mixed with wonder and a hint of sadness. When Jonas arrived, the three of them delved into a deeper exchange about their cultures. Jonas brought recordings of Earth's music, and Anara shared Valorian harmonies, which seemed to resonate through the very walls of the ship. "This is a symphony from our greatest composer," Anara said as ethereal sounds filled the room. Elias and Jonas listened, entranced by the complex layers of sound that seemed both alien and strangely familiar. "Music seems to be a universal language," Jonas observed, smiling. Anara nodded, her eyes bright. "It does. It expresses things words cannot." The conversation shifted to technology and exploration. Anara was particularly interested in human advancements in space travel. "You ventured far for a species so young," she commented, looking over the specks of Elias's ship. Elias grinned. "We're curious, that's for sure. But we have much to learn. Maybe there's room for exchange here. You show us your tech, we show you ours." "An exchange of knowledge, then," Anara agreed, her tone approving. The rest of the day passed with each sharing stories from their worlds. Jonas shared tales of Earth's natural wonders, and Elias talked about human cities that lit up the night like constellations. In return, Anara described Valorian rituals and festivals that celebrated the harmony of their universe. As the stars outside began to dim towards the artificial night cycle of the ship, Elias felt a profound sense of accomplishment. They had not only made contact, but had started to build a bridge of understanding and respect. "Let's document this," Jonas suggested, pulling out a camera. First real cooperation between humans and a Valorian. They gathered around the command center, a record of their newfound friendship framed against the backdrop of the nebula. Elias looked at Anara and Jonas, their faces illuminated by the soft light of the console. "We're making history here," he said, not just to his crew, but to the universe listening in. "Let's hope it's just the beginning." Chapter 3, From Distrust to Trust. As news of their alliance reached across the stars, not all were pleased with the burgeoning friendship between humans and a Valorian. Skepticism and outright hostility began to seep through communications from both Elias's superiors and Anara's distant kin. "Elias, are you certain you can trust her?" "We know nothing of the Valorians," voiced Commander Tyrell, Elias's superior, during a secure transmission. His tone was both cautious and challenging. Elias, standing firm in the command center with Anara and Jonas at his side, replied confidently, "I've spent considerable time with Anara. She's shown nothing but integrity. We have much to gain from their knowledge and perspective." Jonas chimed in, "Commander, the tech insights alone are invaluable, and there's a real chance for peaceful cooperation here." Commander Tyrell sighed, his image flickering over the screen. "Just keep your guard up. We're watching closely." The transmission ended with an uneasy silence. Anara, who had remained quiet during the exchange, finally spoke. "My people are also wary. They fear I'm abandoning our ways, or worse, compromising our secrets." Jonas looked at her, his expression softening. "That's tough, Anara. But maybe if they see what we're doing here, they'll understand." Elias nodded. "Let's arrange a meeting. If a few of your leaders could see this cooperation firsthand, maybe they'd see the benefits." Plans were set, and a few days later, a small delegation of Valorian leaders arrived on the ship. Elias and Jonas greeted them with all the formalities and respect they could muster. Anara introduced her fellow Valorians, her demeanor both proud and a bit tense. The humans extended a tour of their ship, showing their guests the collaborative projects underway, including advancements in navigation and energy efficiency that Anara had helped inspire. Elias led the discussions, ensuring to highlight how both sides benefited from the exchange. During the tour, a Valorian elder, Mirak, expressed his concerns. "How do we know this isn't just a ploy for you to learn our secrets and then abandon us?" Jonas quickly responded, "It's not about taking advantage. It's about mutual growth. What we learn from each other could help everyone." Elias followed up, "Think about what we could achieve if we continue this path, not just for our two species, but for all who explore these stars." The meeting proceeded with demonstrations of combined human and Valorian technology. Anara took the lead, her eloquence and clear explanations bridging much of the initial distrust. As the delegation prepared to leave, Mirak approached Elias. "I came here skeptical, but what you've shown us today speaks volumes about your intentions." Elias smiled, feeling a weight lift. "Thank you, Mirak. We hope this is just the beginning." After the delegation's departure, the trio reconvened in the command center. Jonas let out a long breath. "Think they were convinced?" Anara, with a hopeful gleam in her eye, responded, "I believe so. Murick's words, they meant something. This could be the turning point. Elias looked out at the stars. We took a big step today. Trust doesn't come easy, but it's worth every effort. Together, they had not only faced the scrutiny of their own leaders, but it started to turn doubt into belief. The path ahead remained fraught with challenges, but for now, they celebrated the small victory of having open minds and hearts, setting a course for continued collaboration and understanding. Chapter 4: Uncharted Territories. After gaining some approval from their respective communities, Elias, Jonas, and Anara planned a journey to human settlements across different planets, hoping to broaden the scope of their cooperation and deepen their understanding of each other's worlds. First stop, Mars Colony, Elias announced as they prepared the ship. It's a hub for our solar energy projects. Might give us some ideas for similar setups on Valoria. Anara nodded, her curiosity evident. I'm eager to see how you harness the sun's power. Jonas, checking the navigation systems, added, You'll love it. The engineers there are pretty inventive. The journey to Mars was smooth, with Anara often questioning Elias and Jonas about human space travel techniques. In turn, they were impressed by her quick grasp of human technology. Upon arrival, they were greeted by Dr. Helen Cho, the lead engineer of the Mars solar fields. Welcome to Mars, she exclaimed, her demeanor welcoming. We've heard much about your joint venture. It's an honor to have you here. Dr. Cho led them on a tour of the sprawling solar fields, explaining the technology and the colony's sustainability efforts. Anara listened intently, asking detailed questions that displayed her deep understanding of energy systems. Elias watched the exchange, pleased. Anara's got a sharp mind for this. We could really learn a lot from each other. Jonas nodded, snapping photos of the panels for their records. Imagine combining this with Valorian tech. We could increase efficiency by leaps and bounds. Their next destination was Titan, where human scientists were studying atmospheric phenomena unique to the moon. The team from Titan was equally intrigued by the prospect of sharing knowledge with a Valorian. Your understanding of gravitational waves could really help us out here, mentioned Dr. Lars Koenig, a physicist on Titan, as they toured the research facility. Anara, fascinated by the complex sensor arrays, offered insights from her own people's studies of cosmic forces. Valorian scholars have theories about these waves that might align with your findings, she shared, her enthusiasm matching that of her hosts. As the visit continued, Elias and Jonas facilitated discussions, helping translate technical terms and concepts when needed, ensuring Anara could fully engage with the human scientists. The final leg of their tour took them to a newly established colony on Europa, where human biologists were experimenting with life in extreme underwater conditions. The base, submerged beneath Europa's icy surface, offered a glimpse into potential life-supporting environments on other water-rich worlds. Your planet has vast oceans, right, Anara? Asked Dr. Emily Santos, the lead biologist, as they watched alien fish swim past the viewing ports. Yes, much like this, but warmer, Anara replied, her face lit by the blue glow of the water. There might be life forms in our depths that we haven't even discovered yet. Elias observed the growing excitement among the group. There's so much potential here, not just for sharing knowledge, but for discovering it together. As their tour ended and they prepared to return to their ship, Jonas looked over the recordings and notes they had gathered. We've got enough material here to propose some serious collaborative projects. Anara, standing beside Elias, looked up at the starlit sky visible through the dome of Europa's base. This journey has shown me more than I imagined possible. Elias smiled at her. And we've only just scratched the surface. Together, they had not only explored human advancements, but had also planted seeds for future cooperative ventures, each visit weaving a tighter web of camaraderie and shared purpose between them. Chapter 5: A Galactic Scandal. The collaborations between Elias, Jonas, and Anara did not go unnoticed. As their efforts gained visibility, they sparked a whirlwind of media attention that swept across human and Valorian societies alike. With this newfound fame came not only accolades, but also a wave of controversy and scandal. Have you seen this? Jonas asked, throwing a digital tablet down on the conference table where Elias and Anara were reviewing data. The screen displayed headlines from several major news networks, each emblazoned with sensational stories about their trio. Elias skimmed the headlines, his brow furrowing. This is sensationalism at its worst. They're painting our work as some kind of scheme to undermine Valorian sovereignty. Anara picked up the tablet, her expression calm yet troubled. And on Valoria, they're calling it an enchantment of human trickery. They fear I'm too aligned with your ways. The door chimed, and Dr. Malcolm Hayes, a public relations specialist sent by the Earth Coalition, entered. We need to address this head-on, he advised. Elias, Jonas, Anna, you're at the heart of a story that's become bigger than the work itself. We've arranged for a series of interviews. It's time to set the record straight. Elias nodded in agreement. We need to be clear about our goals and the benefits of our collaboration. Jonas looked from Elias to Anna. Let's not just defend our work, but showcase the potential it has to bring our worlds closer. The trio spent the following days preparing for a media blitz. They organized tours of their facilities for journalists, demonstrated their technology collaborations, and participated in live interviews. During one broadcast, Elias explained, our partnership is built on mutual respect and a shared commitment to advancement. We're not here to exploit or deceive. Anna, who became more fluent in human expressions and idioms, added, we are learning from each other, growing together. This is about harmony, not conquest. Jonas, ever the practical one, chimed in, look at the energy efficiencies we've achieved with Valorian insights or the advancements in atmospheric sciences. These are tangible benefits, real results. As they navigated the complexities of public opinion, they continued their work, undeterred. They invited skeptics to view their projects firsthand, facilitating open days and tours. One such tour was attended by a delegation of mixed human and Valorian diplomats. Elias led the group through their latest project site, a joint venture developing a new type of propulsion system that could revolutionize space travel. By combining Valorian gravitational manipulation with human quantum tech, we're close to breaking barriers we didn't even think were possible a few years ago, Elias enthusiastically explained as they showed the delegation around the lab. A Valorian delegate, previously skeptical, expressed his amazement. Seeing this firsthand changes everything. The narrative is different when you see the cooperation and genuine enthusiasm from everyone involved. The media coverage began to shift slowly, from suspicion and scandal to a more balanced view of their efforts. Stories of their open days, successful demonstrations, and the positive outcomes of their work started to permeate the news. After weeks of relentless public engagements and advocacy, Elias, Jonas, and Anna sat back in their shared office, exhausted but hopeful. We've weathered that storm, Elias said with a relieved smile. Jonas laughed. More like a hurricane. But you're right. It feels like we've turned a corner. Anna looked at both of her colleagues, her gaze thoughtful. This unity, it's fragile, but it's a start. We have to nurture it. Together, they had faced the court of public opinion and emerged not unscathed but strengthened. Their resolve deepened to continue their pioneering work, knowing that the path they were charting could indeed change the universe for the better. Chapter 6. The Heart of the Matter. Following their successful navigation of media storms and public scrutiny, Elias, Jonas, and Anna decided to retreat to a quieter part of the galaxy to focus on their research without the distractions of the public eye. They chose a remote, uninhabited planet known for its beautiful landscapes and tranquil environment, a perfect setting for deep work and reflection. As they settled into their temporary research station, Elias looked out over the rolling hills and vibrant flora. This place could give anyone perspective, he mused aloud. Jonas, setting up equipment with Anna, agreed. It's good to be out of the spotlight. We can think and work without someone analyzing every move. Anna, who had grown more comfortable in her role as a bridge between their worlds, smiled at the serene setting. It's beautiful here. It reminds me of Valoria's quiet places. One evening, as they gathered data from the day's work, the conversation turned personal. They found themselves discussing not just their projects, but their hopes and fears. I never expected to be so involved in something this big, Elias confessed, watching the twin moons rise. When I started out as an explorer, it was about the thrill of discovery. Now, it feels like every discovery has the weight of worlds behind it. Anna listened intently, then shared her own thoughts. On Valoria, joining an interstellar mission is the highest call. I volunteered, dreaming of new worlds. What I found was a deeper understanding of my own heart and desires. Jonas chuckled, assembling a device. I just wanted to make cool things. Didn't expect to be part of changing how two species see each other. Their conversation deepened, and as the night grew longer, Elias and Anna found themselves alone, looking at the stars. Elias took a deep breath and turned to Anna. Do you ever think about what it means for us? Not just our people, but us personally. Anna met his gaze, her expression contemplative. I do. We come from different stars, but here it feels like those differences don't matter. Elias nodded, feeling a connection that went beyond their work. I've learned so much from you, Anara. About your culture, your thoughts, about you. Their eyes locked, and a silent understanding passed between them. Slowly, Elias reached out, his hand brushing hers. Anara's response was gentle, but affirmative as she moved closer. Jonas, having stepped away to give them privacy, watched from a distance, sensing the shift in their relationship. He smiled to himself, knowing how rare it was to find someone who could truly understand the journey they'd been on. Elias and Anara sat together, their hands now firmly entwined, talking about everything and nothing. As the night turned to dawn, they shared their first kiss under the soft light of the planet's moons, a moment that felt like a natural culmination of their shared experiences. The next morning, the trio met for breakfast, a new understanding between Elias and Anara palpable. Jonas, ever the supportive friend, simply raised an eyebrow and grinned. So, are we ready to get back to work today? Elias and Anara exchanged a look, then smiled. Absolutely, Anara said, her voice steady and sure. Together, they returned to their research, their bonds strengthened, their resolve clear. Their journey was about more than just their projects. It was about exploring the unknown territories of the universe in their hearts. Chapter 7, Across the Stars. After weeks of intensive research on the remote planet, Elias, Jonas, and Anara concluded that their findings could potentially revolutionize interspecies cooperation. However, they were also aware that their personal developments could influence their professional paths. Elias initiated a serious discussion one morning in their makeshift lab. We've achieved more than we set out to, both scientifically and personally. But where do we go from here? What's the next step for us in our project? Jonas, always the pragmatist, was quick to respond. We need to think about sustainability. How do we ensure our work continues and expands, regardless of any personal choices we make? Anara, thoughtful, added her perspective. Perhaps it's time to consider formalizing this alliance beyond just the three of us. We could create a foundation or institute that fosters this kind of cooperation across the universe. Elias nodded, pleased with the direction of the conversation. I like that idea. An institute that not only continues our research but also promotes peace and understanding between our species and beyond. Jonas was already pulling up data on his tablet. We could set up headquarters here and maybe satellite locations on Earth and Valoria. Make it a tri-world effort. As they discussed logistics, the conversation naturally flowed into the impact of their personal relationship on their professional lives. Elias turned to Anara, his expression earnest. What we've started here, it's bigger than us. But I don't want to lose what we have either. Anara reached out, taking his hand. I don't believe we have to choose, Elias. Our work, our relationship, they enhance each other. They don't need to be at odds. Jonas, observing their interaction, smiled. You two are good for each other, and good for this project. If you ask me, it only strengthens our case to potential backers and allies. The discussion then shifted towards how they could present their personal and professional successes as a cohesive story to potential funders and collaborators. They spent the next few days preparing a presentation that highlighted their scientific achievements, underscored by their unique personal narrative. Finally, they invited diplomats, scientists, and leaders from various species to their research station for the inaugural symposium of the newly proposed institute. Elias opened the event with a heartfelt speech. Today, we stand together, not just as colleagues, but as friends, partners, and pioneers on a new frontier of interstellar cooperation. Our journey across the stars is not just about scientific discovery, but about finding common ground, understanding, and mutual respect. Anara followed, her voice clear and inspiring. We envision a future where the boundaries of species and space no longer divide us but enrich our collective experiences and endeavors. Jonas concluded, showcasing their technological breakthroughs and outlining the Institute's goals. We invite you all to join us in this endeavor, to learn, to teach, and to build a better future together. The symposium was a success, with many attendees expressing interest in joining their initiative. As the event wrapped up, Elias, Anara, and Jonas stood together, looking out at the gathering of diverse beings mingling and discussing possibilities. This is just the beginning, Elias said, his voice full of hope. A beginning of something wonderful. Anara squeezed his hand, her eyes twinkling with shared excitement. Across the stars, our journey continues. Together, they had not only charted a course for future collaborations, but had also laid the groundwork for a legacy that would extend far beyond their own lifetimes. Chapter 8. When an alien's heart finds a human's love. Years later, the institute that Elias, Anara, and Jonas founded had become a beacon for interspecies cooperation and peace. Situated on the tranquil planet where their personal bonds had deepened, the institute now hosted scholars, researchers, and diplomats from numerous worlds, all working together to advance universal knowledge and understanding. Elias stood in front of the newest cohort of fellows, a diverse group eager to contribute to the ongoing mission. "Welcome, everyone," he began, his voice resonant with the wisdom gained from years of experience. "You are here because you believe in a future where understanding trumps fear, where knowledge crosses galaxies, and where love for one's work and companions can truly change the universe." Jonas, ever the engineer and tinkerer, led a tour of the research facilities later that day. "When we started, all this was just wild terrain," he explained, gesturing to the sprawling complex of labs and living quarters. "Now, it's a place where groundbreaking tech is a daily reality, and it's all thanks to the hard work and dedication of folks like you." As the day ended, Elias and Anara walked through the gardens of the Institute, a project Anara had personally overseen to blend elements of Valorian and Earth flora. The garden was a symbol of their life together, intertwined and flourishing. Anara leaned closer to Elias as they walked. "Do you remember the first time we stood here, looking up at the stars, wondering what the future might hold?" Elias smiled, squeezing her hand. "How could I forget? That was the beginning of everything." Their conversation was interrupted by a call from Jonas. "Hey, you two, you might want to see this," he said, his voice crackling with excitement. They found Jonas in the communications center, where a live feed from a distant planet showed the inauguration of a new outpost, a collaborative effort between several species, including humans and Valorians. The outpost was dedicated to deep space exploration and cultural exchange, concepts that had been at the heart of their institute's mission. "This is what we dreamed of," Elias said, his eyes reflecting the images on the screen. "Our efforts reaching farther than we could have ever imagined." Jonas nodded, and to think it all started with two people from different worlds trusting each other. The next day, Elias was scheduled to speak at the annual celebration of the Institute's founding. The gathering was filled with familiar faces, colleagues, friends, and newcomers, all united by their common goals. In his speech, Elias recounted the journey that led them here. When an alien's heart finds a human's love, it doesn't just change their world. It can change all worlds, he said, looking toward Anara, who stood beside him. "Our personal story might be unique, but the message is universal. It's about reaching out, embracing differences, and building something greater together." The crowd responded with enthusiastic applause, moved by his words and the evident success of the Institute. As the festivities continued, Anara took the stage to announce a new initiative, one that would provide resources for developing worlds to join interstellar communities. "We are here not only to build bridges, but also to help others cross them," she declared, her voice steady and inspiring. The evening ended with a quiet moment between Elias and Anara, watching the sunset from their favorite spot in the garden. "We've come so far," Anara murmured. "Yes, we have," Elias agreed. "And as long as there are stars above us, there's more to do, more to dream." Together, they looked up at the sky, where the stars shone brightly, a never-ending canvas of possibilities that stretched across the universe.